Hey, this is Edwin Dearborn, another edition of Growth Driven. If you're looking at becoming super genius on real estate in 2022, like I want to become, then you definitely want to listen up with my guest, Zachary Beach. Hey, Edwin Dearborn, another edition of Growth Driven. Hey, Zachary, thanks for joining me. I know that we've got a lot of people that are going to want to learn more about real estate, becoming a genius, like you guys say, wicked smart. You're out there in out back east somewhere?
Oh, yeah, New England, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. I was just there a couple days ago. I was out in Providence.
Oh, nice. I'm about 25 minutes south, right next to Newport, Rhode Island.
There you go. Awesome. So tell me, Zachary, tell me your story of how you got involved in real estate?
Yeah, so speaking about Newport, Rhode Island, when I left college, I went down there and started bartending. So Newport is a tourist destination. All the yachts come in for Martha's Vineyard and Grand Cayman Islands and all of that. So what better thing to do than become a bartender? So I jumped into bartending and personal training. But as you can imagine, after probably 4 years, it got rather exhausting. I was burning the candle on both ends because I would stay up all night long serving drinks, and then I'd wake up first thing in the morning and go personal train. And my wife were literally just having a conversation before I came in here, and I said I stopped personal training because I would tell people what to do and then they wouldn't do it. So but that may be for a whole nother podcast. So I approached my father-in-law, Chris, who had about 30 years in experience. He just came out of the crash of 2008 and rebuilt his business. So I went to him and I said, hey, Chris, I'd be interested in joining the real estate business. I know you're just getting this thing off the ground. I don't know if I'm going to like it, but heck, it's going to be better than what I'm doing right now. So that was when I was about 24, 25 years old. And since then, been in real estate for going on 8 years now in this very, very specific niche that we'll talk about today.
Absolutely. And what do you like most about real estate for you?
Real estate, it's the challenge. The creative financing world that we live in, where we don't focus on banks, we don't use credit, we're not personally guaranteeing any debt. What we do is we are problem solvers. So when I look at a real estate transaction, there's really three pieces that are involved in any single one of these transactions typically, and that's the buyer, the seller, and then the real estate investor. So you really have to be able to massage all different angles in order to get yourself in a position where it becomes a profitable real estate deal for every single person involved, so that way you can create a win-win-win scenario. So I've done hundreds of these deals now and have helped people do hundreds of them across the country. And there's not a single real estate transaction I've done that's exactly the same. There's always some sort of different moving part. So that's what's fun about it.
That's cool. All right. So now, earlier, before we started the show, we talked about there's taking the guy who's an investor with zero or very little experience, and then taking that guy on a pathway to becoming a genius. Can you lay out kind of the unique steps that you guys approach to help bridge that gap?
Yeah, 100%. And this goes for the brand new green real estate investor, those that are moving from their current corporate job and maybe they want to go full-time in real estate, or somebody that has another business and they're trying to add this on. But this also goes for the seasoned real estate investor that's trying to add this additional piece to their table. Okay. So we have an amazing podcast as well, the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast, and we've interviewed over 350 high performance people in all different types of real estate niches. But also we've had some major guests on, like a Brian Tracy, Ed Millett, and the number one thing that everyone always says is that business in general, including real estate, is 80% mental. So when we look at bringing somebody new into this real estate profession or becoming an entrepreneur, we work on three major things. But first and foremost, we need to focus on the mindset of the person coming in. Because what's like the number one thing that people tell you when they come into real estate, they say, well, I want to be a millionaire. And then when you ask them, you say, well, how much are you currently making right now? And they tell you 50,000, 100,000, 150,000.
Right.
No, that's nothing to wave a stick at. Trust me, I come from a single mother, that was high income. What I just talked about there for her.
Yeah.
But you have to be a completely different person, different beliefs, you have to be overcoming your fears, different habits in order to be somebody that now has a 7-figure earner. So we need to really help you bridge that gap. And it's going to be something that we'll consistently work on with you. But so as we bring you into our community, our team, we're going to focus on that. Then we can start focusing on the skill sets, or the second piece of what we would consider our genius model. And then, so within that skill set, now you're talking about the actual things you see on television, let's say, which is the communication with the sellers, the scripts, the negotiations, and then working with the buyers, how to help a buyer move from somebody that's not qualified for a loan to somebody that now can be qualified for loans. You got to learn that skill set. And then also, as you build out this real estate business, there's a certain aspect or skill set that comes with your portfolio. We have a thing that we call wealth stacking. And that really what that means is, just because you brought in a deal and there's a certain profit surrounding that deal doesn't mean that you can't create more profit from that deal. So there's certain techniques and skill sets that we help you massage and continue to increase your profits on your deals. Now that we have that skill set, we then need to insert our systems, because we want this to be a long-term sustainable real estate business. So then we're going to include things like our lead generation system, our follow-up system, or nurture system, then your financial and legal, accounting, all of those as well. So now we can create a really sustainable business. So that's the model. That's what we continuously look through and have brought hundreds of people through to be successful real estate investors. Now it's, how do we now bring you from no real estate experience to that model and be consistently working that model? Well, just to give you guys a snapshot, basically in the first 90 days, the number one thing that we got to focus on, besides your mindset, is the skill of communication. Because yes, real estate looks sexy on HGTV, but really what real estate is a relationship business.
Amen. Yeah. It's not just this matter of, broadcasting this image, which a lot of people in real estate, they get caught in the imagery and the Hollywood-esque, idea of it all, where you guys really bear down and go, no, there's things you got to do and say on top of what you got to believe. And only then are you at the beginning point of actually building a real business.
Couldn't agree with you more. Yes, there's this whole facade when it comes to real estate investing. And yes, there's a reason why real estate has produced the most billionaires and the most millionaires. It's because of, the appreciation and the physical asset that you get on a property and the cash flow you can create. But real estate's not, I say it's simple. It's not easy, especially when you're first getting started and you're cutting your teeth and entering this game. There's a reason, and there's unfortunately a major thing, what we would call the gap, which is there's so many people that are coming in because it's a low barrier of entry into real estate. They're buying courses, they're taking coaching, they're going to events. And then there's this gap where they don't put in the action. And then all of a sudden now people fall into this chasm because they're not getting the results they want. Now that's been our main focus now for the past 8 years in this coaching, is really bridging that gap and getting people to be able to implement and start seeing the results, so that way they can start changing their lives.
Yeah. And I think it's an important gap. I mean, look, I work with some real estate guys. What is it? NAR, National Association of Realtors, says that 90% of realtors fail in their first 3 years. 90%. I mean, can you imagine if we had teachers failing at 90% that couldn't teach after they learned how to teach? I mean, we wouldn't have schools.
It's an interesting dynamic, right? Because like I said, there's a low barrier of entry. There's high promise, but there's so much you have to do in the meantime. And there's so many different skill sets, systems, and mindsets that you need to work through in order to get you to that point. And when I communicate about that model, it's not like you discovered your mindset and now all of a sudden you're done. No, we're going to continuously circle that model and go back, because there's always gaps. So, right, you increase your personal development. All right, yeah, you increase your ability to earn more. All right, well, now I got to work on the skill set so that way I can produce that revenue. All right, well, now I need to implement the system so now I can sustain that revenue. So we continuously work on those different pieces. So, and especially in the realtor or real estate investor world, I think that there's a lot of things that people don't bring to the table or are unaware of that they need to come to the table with, which is these entrepreneurial skills that that none of us are taught growing up. And then all of a sudden we're like, yeah, go be a good realtor, but you didn't teach me, but you didn't tell me I need to sustain prospecting and I need to check on my accounting and I need to X, Y, and Z. You throw it in there, but it's those skill sets that you don't come to the table with, and you have to learn on top of learning that next job or that next position that you're doing.
Yeah, good point. I think that, I've learned in my philosophical studies that probably the biggest reason people don't succeed, other than mindset, is that they have a misestimation of effort, of what is required. They think it's going to be 10 ounces of work when it's going to be 1,000 pounds of work. Now, the 1,000 pounds of work is the actual work that was needed, and they get a little upset when they discover that it's not 10 ounces. It's 1,000 pounds,
Everything is needed. In the entrepreneur world, everything is needed. We're always, there's that saying that you always overestimate what you can do in 12 months, but significantly underestimate what you can do in 3 years.
Yes.
And when you first getting started in this world, you're always overestimating what can happen. But in the long run, once you put in that work, you're setting yourself up for a very successful lifestyle, generational wealth, whatever that may be for you, that end goal. But it is going to require pushing a boulder up a hill at the beginning of this business or this new life. It just really is. But it's totally worth it in the end if you stick with it. There's no way you can fail in real estate unless you stop.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. And also you bring up a good point that I always ask people, that when someone comes, you talked about the 3 years, I ask someone before they work with me, I go, so how long do you think it takes to build a powerful brand, whether it's personal? And they're like, well, I never thought about that. And they usually get somewhere between 3 to 5 years. I said, great. Whatever answer they give me, I agree with. But I want you to remember this. In 3 months, while we're crossing the stream to that brand year that you thought of, you can't quit, because you can't sit there and go 3 months later going, it doesn't work. You said 3 to 5 years. And you're saying the exact same thing I say, which is awesome to hear. I'm with Zachary Beach. If you guys are interested in learning about the how-to, the tactics, the strategies, the mindsets, and you're not lazy and you're willing to put in the work, let me just stress that again. You're not lazy. You're more persistent than a bulldog on Red Bull. Then Zachary Beach is the guy you should connect with. Go to smartrealestatecoach.com. So I like all the things that you're saying. It aligns with everything that anybody that's successful in real estate is saying. You're saying the exact same thing. Systems, hard work, mindset, scripts, follow the, keep doing it. Don't give up. Now, you said something earlier that kind of intrigued me. There's 3 paydays. Tell me what the 3 paydays are that you teach within your system.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning, because we can't start with the profits.
Totally.
Let's walk them through it. So the way we structure all of our deals, so we don't use banks, we don't sign personally or use our own credit, and we don't raise a bunch of capital from investors. The reason why we don't do this is because my father-in-law, as I spoke about earlier, my partner, got crushed in 08. And everybody's heard nightmare stories about 08. Market significantly dipped. His portfolio dropped about a third. So as you can imagine, everything else kind of came with that. So in order for us to get back in the real estate world, and he was a broker owner and realtor and fix and flipper, everything you could think of, in order for him to get back into this world, we need to create some new rules. And the new rules were, we're not going to sign personally. We're not going to go get bank loans. We're not going to be leveraging all of our own personal things for debt. So the way we structure these deals now are what we would call creative financing or terms deals. So we're buying or controlling assets, either through lease options, owner financing, which means the seller's the bank, or subject to deals, which simply means you're utilizing the debt that's already on a property.
Yeah.
So we buy them a very specific way. So now that we purchase them that way, we then go ahead and sell property to buyers that need time in order to qualify for loans. A lot of people have heard of it: rent to own, lease purchase. We're selling them properties to them because they need time in order to qualify. When we do that, we're able to create 3 paydays on every single one of those deals. We're able to create a payday 1, which is a non-refundable deposit, typically between 3 and 10% of the total purchase price.
Okay.
So nothing to wave a stick at. Then you got your cash flow, everybody's favorite word in real estate, cash flow, which is your payday 2. And then your payday 3 is when the buyer goes and qualifies for their own mortgage, or if you finance them later on, which is then payday 3, which is the wealth you built in the deal, which consists of if there's any premium left over. So if you bought the house for $500,000, you sold it for $550,000, and your down payment didn't take that full $50,000, there's still that left over. And then we have the ability to build wealth in these deals via principal. If anybody has your own traditional mortgage right now, there's a certain portion that you pay every single month, PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, that comes directly off the principal balance every month. Now, the way we control those assets, we get that principal pay down, even though we may not even have full ownership of it, and that mortgage is still in the seller's name. So we're getting that benefit. So that's our payday 3. So we get paid 3 times on every single one of our deals, which is really the new way of doing real estate. There's no reason why you should only get paid once on these deals.
Good, man. It's like the American Indian. When they got a buffalo, they just didn't eat the meat. They used the horns, they used the bones, they used the skin, they used the fat, they used everything. Multiple ways.
Yeah, this is exactly why I was saying earlier that the reason why I like real estate or this space is because it's like any business. It's all creativity. It's you're molding parts, you're solving challenges. And just with our space, you have a lot more levers to pull on versus other, real estate industry niches.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna get into the weeds a little bit. So let's say the guy's got the mindset, let's say he comes with positive mindset. He's coachable. He wants to win. He wants to learn. He's amiable to all the things that you teach him. He's starting to learn the scripts. Now he wants to take it. Okay. Now I've got some skill sets. Obviously I can always get better. Talk a little bit about the business systems. How do you find these deals? I'm sure that's probably one of the top questions you get. Okay, good. I'm into it. I paid you the coaching fee. I'm on board. I want to win. How do I go find a deal?
Yeah, love that question. I'm so glad you asked. So our lead generation systems is at the beginning of the front end of the business, which is something that I was extremely excited about teaching other people, because that's where you find. That's where you go hoard the gold, right?
Yeah.
So we've been very consistent in utilizing a couple lead generation tools or lead sources.
Yep.
So our lead sources are right out, underneath your nose right now too. It's just we solve problems differently. So your for sale by owners are out there. They put they're marketing their property on the market, Zillow, wherever else you find your for sale by owners. So those are prime candidates to speak with. You work directly with the seller. Expired listings. You have listings that were on the market with a realtor at one point in time, and for one reason or another, it didn't sell. So that's been our bread and butter, because they are primed for a new creative way of selling their house, because the traditional market did not give them what they wanted. Then you have very specific niche lists that we target. Especially right now, you have people out there that are that are in forbearance, but are the forbearance is about to come due. So you got people that are in arrears. That's a fantastic group of people that we can help. Not only can we create a great real estate transaction, but we're able to solve people's challenges by helping people not get their credit destroyed because life happened. So we really help a lot of people in that world. And then also we have a ton of tire landlords right now. So you can find those through For Rent by Owners or other means through niche lists where you can search databases. Because right now, especially with COVID happened and the forbearance, the moratoriums, all of that, they got put in a really awkward position where they're making their mortgage payments, but they're not collecting anything, which tends to make a very tired investor very quickly. So we've been able to help a lot of them get out of some of their challenges. So all of these are very public. It's not that I'm telling you something that you've never heard before, or especially if people are, in real estate. It's just how we approach and the levers that we have to pull on. So as you bring somebody in, it's really teaching them that communication, because as you can see, the communication, the scripts, and how we help support people is the most important piece, because sellers, just like any of us, they move towards clarity and they move away from ambiguity. So we got to get the investor really clear on how they can help. And we do that by various ways, especially if they're inside our coaching program. We jump on three-way phone calls. We have them send us calls and we critique their calls. We help them structure. It is basically a quasi-partnership. We are in the trenches with them, unlike any other coaching program I've ever seen.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you went into those details. I think that's critical for people. And I would agree with you. People move towards clarity. They move away from ambiguity or uncertainty. So you're obviously putting these leads into a list. You're getting on the phone. You've got a very specific way of communicating and articulating with clarity with these people, unlike most agents who are probably sounding desperate for a home sale. And so that clarity of communication, you sit there and sit on the call with them, coach them so that they become very competent at that. And then they start to get deal flow into their pipeline.
Absolutely. And then we move them. So we brought them into, say, their first 90 days. They're starting to, that new person starting to get really great clarity, starting to fill up the funnel per se. We then have a very systematic, what we would call 7 steps to getting to a taken, or that's what in our world, it's a property under agreement. So really, you're just moving somebody from an initial phone call where you're reaching out to them, to then getting them to some additional information via email. So that'd be your second step. Third step would then be a follow-up call, or like more of a clarity call where it's, hey, this is your property. This is how, in theory, we can help. Then we're moving them to an appointment. We still like to go on physical appointments. You can do this virtually, but in my opinion, just because maybe it's a paradigm of mine, if somebody came up to me with a gun to my head and said, you have to get this deal closed, would you do it on the phone or in person? I would tell you I would do it in person. And I think that's for most real estate investors.
Yeah.
So you get on the appointment in person. Then once you move from there, we're then going to be moving into comparables research. Then we send out our options in our contract. So our everyone just follows very simple 7 steps. If you continuously follow those 7 steps, and I'm not saying moving somebody from step 1 to 7 is going to happen in a phone call. It's not. It's about moving somebody one step at a time and moving lots of people one step at a time. And that's when you start to get that real consistent deal flow. And then that, of course, leads to selling the property, which then creates your paydays.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I'm with Zachary Beach here. You guys go to, if you're listening and you don't see the link below you, it's smartrealestatecoach.com. So probably another top question that came to my mind. So you get somebody out there, they're a college student or they're working full time. They can't stop their gig. They got to, they're making that $70K a year, which ain't a lot of money these days with inflation. And they're looking, okay, I want a side hustle. Can somebody work with you and do this as a side hustle until they can flip the switch?
100%. Yep. That is what 95% of people that do in our community.
Okay.
They come in, we create a strategic game plan with them based on how much time they have available, what their skill sets are coming into it, what their current, mindset is coming into it. And we say, this is what we need to do over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, based upon your goals. And this is how we're going to get you to full time. Some people, in all honesty, love their job. and just want to build, I shouldn't say just, but want to build a real estate portfolio. I had a conversation with a lady the other day, and she's an engineer. She's like, I love it. I went to school for a long time. I love being an engineer, but the ability to choose whether she wants to be an engineer or not is the importance to her. So we're going to create a fantastic portfolio with her over time with hard work, to give her that ability. So she could say, one day I can step off and never have to go to work again, or I can do that on the side as well. So if you want to do this full-time or part-time, we can work with you 100%, and we'll create that strategic game plan. Over the last 12 months, we brought basically a person a month full-time, which is really cool to watch some people retire and put in their notices.
That is cool. Okay, so they can do this part-time. Have you found that there are certain types of individuals, maybe certain industries or certain backgrounds that tend to excel more, kind of the 80-20 rule? Like, who's that 20% that has 80% of the success with you guys?
That is a marketer question. Is it not? No, I love it. They're great. Anybody. So one of the major overcomes that people have to come through is phone skills or fear of the phone, which it's surprising how many people have fear of the phone. But even myself, I was a bartender. I can talk to anybody in person at any time about anything. But when I got on the phone, I was nervous. You just, especially when you don't have full clarity, you haven't done a bunch of deals. Of course, it can be nerve wracking. So anybody that's used to and has phone skills is gonna have definitely an edge because a lot of the work is done on the phone. So if you see people from sales backgrounds, they tend to do very well. Or other people from strategic backgrounds where they can really understand the different moving parts with the creative deals. But the truth is, we got teachers, firefighters, engineers, software developers. But certainly if the skills that people acquire through, say, sales means are going to put them at least in a position to move forward faster, and especially the first 60, 90, 120 days.
Makes a lot of sense. So if you're a good communicator, you like people, you're extroverted, these are going to be easier. You're going to have an easier time. Okay. So now, do you recommend, so let's say, this is not me, but let's say I'm a bit shy. I don't like getting on the phone. I don't like talking to people, but I still want to do it. Is there any way that you can use a virtual assistant to make the calls for you? Have you found that to be successful?
Oh, absolutely. Virtual assistants. We have a full training program once people are inside our community on how to work with their virtual assistant. Me and my father-in-law did a podcast on this because I believe there's like this whole tainted world when it comes to virtual assistants. Like, they're out of the country, they're not as good. You pay them a low value. But the truth is, if you get the right person, doesn't matter where they are in the world, if you treat them, communicate with them as if they're a teammate, they get the benefit in the business as the business grows, just like anybody else, then they're going to be with you and be with you a long time. We've had virtual assistants that have been with us for 10, 12 years now and have actually moved with us through multiple businesses, which is really cool. So yes, virtual assistants are a key aspect in your business. You can get them right when you come into the business, and they can help take some of that load off when it comes to hitting some of our key metrics. Or you can, if you really want to, you can go ahead and you run the business and you make all the phone calls at the beginning. Some people like that because they say, I just want to get used to the scripts and get used to all of that first before I start taking some follow-up calls from my virtual assistant.
Yeah, good to know. Okay, so last question, Zachary. What did we not talk about, or what did I not ask you that I should have asked you?
I get this question on some podcasts, and sometimes it stumps me. A question that you didn't ask is probably, what is this current real estate market going to, how is it going to affect real estate investors? Because, we even hear it inside our own community because of the way the media is structured right now. And you know that from a marketing standpoint. It's either number one, everybody thinks the market's going to crash, or number two, all the markets are too hot and nobody can buy real estate unless you have gobs of cash sitting on the sideline right now. So two things right now. Number one is you can buy it. You can buy real estate this way in any market. Doesn't matter, hot, cold, flat. Really, the only thing that's going to make the difference is your metrics. How many leads or how many people is it going to take for you to get a property, to purchase a property? Obviously, very low in a slow market, very high in a hot market, and in between. The other piece is I'm a firm believer right now that we're in the middle of a perfect storm when it comes to this creative real estate piece. And that's because you got forbearances that are coming to a point where they are now being called, more or less. You have not the banks that were going to do a loan modification and move it to the back are already done. Yep. Now you have people that have a lot of money due. So our creative space can 100% help there. You also have interest rates that are going to rise. They're expected 3 times in the next year. 3 times. Every half point takes away a 10% buying power. So people that could afford a $600,000 house are now only going to be able to afford a $500,000 house. How that affects the market now is you have sellers that are going to be sitting on the market longer because this buying power is not going to be out there as much. So now you're going to have more expired listings. So now you have the ability for us to go ahead and purchase more properties creatively because the properties are staying on the market longer. So just with those, and now with the shifting of the market, which everybody's expecting a correction, I think a downfall in 2008 is a bit extreme because it's not the same way, and the market's not built the same way. But a shift is going to be happening, in the expectations of a seller, thinking they're still going to be able to get this price up here, even though buyers only pay this price, is now going to continue to give us a leg up because the way we can buy real estate, price is almost irrelevant in some aspects as long as you get the other terms right. So you have all of those moving parts right now coming to a head. And right now, for the creative financing real estate investor, you can go ahead and purchase properties, long-term deals at good terms. So for the next 1, 3, 10 years, you can put yourself in a very hedged position the way we buy. So that way you can create not only great wealth for you, but generational wealth down the road. We even scream it. The next 12 months could lead to 10 years worth of revenue.
Absolutely. I think Warren Buffett would say that you can make money in any market if you're creative and you're smart. So, hey, Zachary, thanks for joining me. If you guys want to know more about Zachary Beach and his program, go to smartrealestatecoach.com. I know that they deliver just 5-star service. You guys are going to win. If you've been looking to make a move, whether full-time, part-time, whether you're brand new or, a seasoned veteran, I think that anytime you partner with other smart people, you're always going to win. So Zachary, I want to thank you so much for being a part of us. And then you had some type of free offer you wanted to.
Yeah, let me give everybody that's either watching this or listening to this our free Amazon bestselling book. We actually revised it. We wanted to make it even more relevant today so that way you can see. But it's something that we got an Amazon bestselling book. I want to give it to you guys. It is wickedsmartbooks.com/growth driven. So it's wickedsmartbooks.com/growth driven. You can go ahead. We will ship the book absolutely free to you. It's 100% on us. Nice hardcover book. You'll enjoy it.
Great. And I'll include that link in the YouTube video and in the podcast when these upload later on this afternoon, because we're doing this live, and I'll be adding a thumbnail and all that neat artsy stuff to make it look good for YouTube. But hey, Zachary, want to thank you so much for being a part of our show today, and all to you that have watched Growth Driven in the past and are going to listen to this in the future, whether it's next month or next year. Thanks for supporting this community. It means a lot to me. I do this not because it makes me a lot of money, because I actually enjoy servicing my community with experts, whether it be real estate or marketing or branding, so that you can take a better advantage of any economy for your own benefit. Once again, this has been another edition of Growth Driven. Thank you so much. We will talk to you later down the road. Bye-bye.